There are prayers that move mountains, and not one word is ever spoken. These prayers are not heard by ears, but by the fabric of reality itself. They are felt, deep, quiet, and powerful. The secret of the silent prayer is not in begging or pleading. It is in knowing. Knowing that what you desire has already been granted. Not will be, not might be, but is. It already exists in a realm where thought and form are one. Millions have changed their lives through these unspoken petitions, not because they said the right words, but because they became the answer they were seeking. They assumed it. They wore it. They walked in it inwardly, long before the outer world agreed. What is a silent prayer, if not the decision to dwell in the end? The quiet claiming of what is yours, not with noise, but with certainty. The feeling that stirs when you close your eyes and feel the weight of the money, the smile of the healed loved one, the thrill of success, all of it already yours. These are not dreams. These are blueprints. The world around you is clay, and your inner state molds it. Your imagination is not pretend. It is the signal sent into the invisible that shapes the visible. The feeling of I am is the prayer. And that feeling, held in silence, has brought fortunes into lives that once knew only lack. Many who now live in wealth and peace were once surrounded by despair, but they whispered to the universe not with words, but with feeling. They persisted in the state of already having. They gave thanks before it came. That's the mystery. That's the secret. You are not waiting on something out there. Reality is responding to your inner identity. Change your concept of self and your world must follow. Assume the vibration of the answered prayer and the outer will bow to it. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to tell anyone. Just feel it real. Again and again. In your bed, in your car, at your desk. Hold that image. Feel that scene. Let it be more real to you than your doubt. Because silent prayers, felt with faith, persistence, and imagination, cannot fail. They have already won millions, and now it's your turn. The prayer is not in words, but in assumption. It is not the eloquence of your vocabulary or the length of your requests that moves the unseen forces of life. True prayer begins where words end. It is silent, inward, and deeply felt. When you pray in the traditional sense, you often speak from a place of wanting. But wanting only affirms separation from what you desire. Assumption, on the other hand, is the act of mentally and emotionally claiming that your desire is already yours. And that assumption, that deep inner knowing, is the true essence of prayer. To assume the wish fulfilled is to step into a version of yourself where the desire is no longer a hope, but a reality. It means to feel the feeling you would feel if what you wanted were already in your possession. That feeling, that inner conviction, becomes a silent command to life. It is not pleading, it is not hoping, it is not bargaining. It is assuming, embodying, and accepting. When you assume something is true, your mind no longer searches for it, it begins to reflect it. Your reactions change, your self-perception shifts, and this inner shift begins to reshape your outer world. The world is only ever showing you the content of your inner assumptions. If you assume you are wealthy, even if your bank account contradicts it, you begin to see opportunities differently. You walk differently. You make decisions aligned with that new identity, and the outer world catches up. True prayer never begs. It never repeats itself out of fear it wasn't heard. It is a single moment of inner union between you and the thing desired. a union so complete that there is no room left for doubt. Just as a mother does not question whether she is pregnant after conception, you too must not question your assumption once it has taken root. You carry it in your consciousness. You nurture it with belief. You protect it from the intrusions of fear and logic. And you let it grow. The reason so many prayers go unanswered is because they are never really prayers. They are emotional outbursts of worry. They are confirmations of lack disguised as hope. But assumption reverses that. It tells the mind and the body, it is done. And from that moment, your life begins to rearrange itself to reflect this new order. You need no proof before you assume. In fact, the assumption itself is the seed of proof. It is the origin of the thing seen. Every miracle, every transformation, every unexpected breakthrough has come from a silent moment when someone chose to feel it real, to accept what they could not yet touch as already theirs. This is the prayer that reshapes destinies, brings healing to the hopeless, and floods bank accounts that once sat empty. So pray, not with lips, but with belief. Not with repetition, but with stillness. Assume the end. Become it inwardly. Feel it in your bones. And let your world mirror the quiet confidence of that inner claim. Because the prayer is not in words, but in assumption. An assumption, when sustained, is creation itself. Your inner world commands the outer world. What you feel in silence, your world echoes loudly. Everything you experience outside of you is the reflection of what you have accepted within. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your persistent emotions, they shape the very fabric of your reality. The world does not happen to you by chance. It unfolds according to the tone you carry within. That is the sacred truth so few understand. They try to fix the outer world while leaving the inner world unchanged. But the secret lies within. The silent feelings you nurture, the mental conversations you hold, the images you rehearse when no one is watching, these are the architects of your life. They may seem invisible, but they are the loudest voices in creation. What you continue to accept as true, regardless of appearances, becomes the pattern your life must follow. The law is simple. What you feel inside, you will eventually meet outside. When you feel confident, even in the face of uncertainty, opportunities begin to appear where there were none. When you feel unloved, even in the presence of affection, the world starts to mirror rejection. It is not about the facts in front of you. It is about the frequency you carry. And frequency is not made of noise, it is made of feeling. That is why silence is never truly silent. It is filled with vibration, and vibration is the language of creation. People wonder why their circumstances never change. They beg, they strive, they wait. But deep inside, they continue to feel small, to feel undeserving, to feel stuck. And so life obliges. Life does not respond to what you wish. It responds to what you believe. Your outer world bends to the posture of your inner self. There is no need to manipulate the external. It is only the screen upon which your inner movie plays. You are the projector. The images are formed inside you through repetition and emotion. Each time you hold a thought and infuse it with feeling, you impress it deeper into your being. And the world, like a faithful mirror, reflects it back without bias. This is why your most private moments matter. The things you say when you're alone, the way you react inwardly when something goes wrong, the way you imagine yourself before sleep, these are not small things. These are your silent orders to the universe. They are instructions, and the outer world listens closely. If you want change, don't start with your surroundings. Start with your perception. Change how you see yourself. Change how you feel when no one's around. Begin to feel rich even if your pockets are empty. Begin to feel loved even if you're alone. Begin to feel free even if your circumstances say otherwise, and persist in that feeling until the world has no choice but to yield. Your inner world is the master, your outer world is the servant. It cannot do otherwise. Whatever you feel in silence, whether it's fear or faith, lack or abundance, will echo through your relationships, your health, your finances, your life. The silence within you is not empty. It is creative, it is divine, and it commands everything you see. Faith is the substance of the unseen. It is not a wish nor a fragile hope. It is a knowing so strong, so stable, that it does not waver even when the evidence is missing. Faith is what stands when the world says no, and the heart still whispers yes. It is the foundation of every miracle, every breakthrough, every extraordinary story that defies logic. Billions have been won, not merely in money, but in healing, in love, in freedom, by those who dared to believe in what they could not yet see. Effort is often praised, but effort alone cannot build the life you dream of. The outer world is dense, and you can push all day long without moving the mountain. But faith shifts mountains without touch. Why? Because faith operates from the higher law. It reaches beyond appearances and plants seeds in the unseen realm, knowing that what is planted will surely bloom. The unseen is more real than the seen. Everything you hold now was once invisible. Every home began as an idea, every business as a vision, every healed body as a mental image of wholeness. The material world is only the echo of the immaterial, and faith is the bridge between the two. When you live by faith, you are no longer tied to circumstances. You walk by an inner light that tells you it is already done. People often look to results to confirm what they believe, but true power is the reverse. Believe first and results will follow. You must see it in your mind and feel it in your spirit long before your eyes confirm it. The ones who win big, the ones who rise from nothing, all have this one thing in common. They held faith when no one else could see what they saw. Faith is the quiet conviction that you are already what you desire to be. It is not an emotion, it is a decision, a stance, a state. And once you stand in that state, the universe begins to align. People show up, opportunities unfold, doors open. But it begins not with hustle, not with noise, but with belief. Those who have won millions, literally and metaphorically, did not wait for proof. They became the proof. They lived as if it were true. They imagined success when all they had was struggle. They gave thanks before anything had changed. They smiled at the invisible and welcomed it like an honored guest. That is the true meaning of faith. It is substance, not empty air, but the very material of creation itself. It is not fantasy. It is the blueprint of reality. Hold it in your heart and you hold the power to remake your world. Doubt may scream, circumstances may challenge, but faith never flinches. It says, I know it's mine because I have claimed it within. And that kind of faith, quiet, fierce, invisible, has built empires. It has healed incurable bodies. It has reunited broken families. It has delivered wealth where poverty reigned. So do not underestimate the unseen. It is not empty, it is full of every possibility. And faith is how you reach in and bring the invisible into form. Imagination is the sacred altar of prayer. It is the holy space where desires are not just entertained but accepted as real. It is where you step beyond what is and dare to feel what could be. The world may call it fantasy, but creation begins the moment you see something in your mind and embrace it as already true. That moment, when you close your eyes and live within the fulfilled desire, is more powerful than any worded petition, more creative than any physical action. Imagination is not child's play. It is not a fleeting escape from reality. It is the root of reality. Every building, every invention, every piece of music, every empire began first as an image within someone's mind. Before the foundation was laid in the outer world, it was built in silence through vivid inner seeing. And what applies to architecture and invention applies even more to your own life. When you go to the altar of your imagination, you are not just wishing, you are communing with the unseen and instructing it to become seen. You are no longer a bystander of life, but a creator. What you imagine with feeling becomes the seed of your future. The moment you visualize with certainty, you give birth to a new timeline, and the world begins to adjust to that new command. But imagination must be honored. It is sacred. It must be entered with reverence, not desperation. You don't go to it to escape life. You go to it to direct life. You go to it to assume a posture of being. You go to it and say, here I am, already having what I asked for. And then you feel it, not lightly but fully. You touch it inwardly, hear the sounds of success, sense the warmth of love, count the money in your hands, or see the smile of the healed loved one. You do not hope, you do not question. You become. Creation does not wait for proof, it begins with belief. And belief is ignited in imagination. It is the place where your present limitation no longer matters. It is where your senses are retrained to obey your vision, not your past. If you want a new life, you must first build it on the altar within. Sit in silence, close your eyes, and see it done. Feel it done. Let the scene be so real that when you open your eyes, you're surprised to find the old world still present. But persist. Return again and again to that sacred altar. Each visit carves the image deeper into your subconscious. Each visit affirms your new identity. And when that inner image becomes stronger than the outer world, a shift happens. Reality bends. Conditions rearrange. People respond differently. Doors appear where there were walls. All because you dare to imagine and believe in the truth of that imagination. So do not underestimate the power within you. You do not need more resources, more time, or more validation. What you need is to honor the gift already inside you. Your imagination is not fiction, it is prophecy. And the moment you treat it as sacred, the moment you see it as real, creation begins. The universe listens, and the world responds. Desire is the voice of God within. It is not a mistake, not a distraction, not something to suppress or question. It is divine communication, a whisper from the infinite, calling you to expand, to become, to receive. What you long for deeply is not random. It is not the product of envy or restlessness. It is an instruction, a signal from your higher self, guiding you toward your purpose. It is life seeking fuller expression through you. So many people silence their desires. They convince themselves that wanting more is wrong, that longing is a sign of weakness or greed. But this is not truth. It is misunderstanding. Desire is sacred. It is a spark of creation planted in you not by accident, but by divine design. The very fact that you can conceive it means that in some realm it already exists. And your longing for it is proof that you are meant to receive it. You were not born to live a small, quiet life of unmet potential. You were born to express the fullness of what you are, and that fullness is revealed to you in the form of desire. You desire to be wealthy, not because you're materialistic, but because abundance is your nature. You desire love, not because you're incomplete, but because connection is your truth. You desire freedom, not because you're rebellious, but because your soul knows it was never meant to be caged. Every great creation began with a desire. Every transformation, every leap in consciousness, every miracle was sparked by someone honoring the longing in their heart. Desire pulls you forward. It opens doors in the mind long before they appear in the world. It awakens your imagination and invites you to see beyond what is to live from what could be. But to receive what you desire, you must stop questioning it. Stop doubting whether you are worthy. Stop analyzing whether it's possible. If the desire lives in you, it is yours. Not someday, now. But now begins within. Now begins when you no longer treat your longing as something outside of you, but as something already present within you, something sacred, something destined. You are not chasing your desire, you are remembering it. You are realigning with it. You are saying yes to what was always meant to be. And when you say yes fully, without apology, the path begins to unfold. Opportunities show up. Ideas pour in. People are drawn to you. Life starts arranging itself around your inner agreement. Desire is guidance. It is direction. It is divine clarity disguised as a dream. Don't run from it. Don't shrink in fear. Let it burn. Let it grow. Let it become the song you wake up to and the peace you sleep in. And trust that if it was planted in you, the way to fulfill it has also been prepared. What you long for deeply is not a test. It is a promise. A promise that life wants to give to you more than you can even imagine. And your only task is to say yes, to feel it, to assume it, to believe it. Because desire is not noise. It is God's whisper in your soul, calling you into more. Persist silently in the feeling of fulfillment. This is the true power behind prayer. Not in repetition or loud declarations, but in the quiet, steady dwelling in the end state. It is the choice to mentally and emotionally occupy the reality where your desire is already yours. This state of inner fulfillment becomes the soil in which your manifestation grows. You do not need the world to agree with you. You do not need evidence or approval. You simply need to remain loyal to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. True prayer is not about convincing something outside of you to act on your behalf. It is not about pleading, nor is it about trying to earn a result. It is about alignment. You align yourself inwardly with the result you desire, and then you stay there. You persist, even when nothing has changed around you, even when doubt tries to creep in. You persist silently. No one needs to know what you're doing. You are not trying to impress others or prove a point. You are impressing upon yourself the truth that it is done. To persist silently is to walk by inner knowing, not outer sight. It is the discipline of turning away from what your senses tell you and trusting what your imagination has revealed. When you feel the state of fulfillment deeply and consistently, your subconscious begins to accept it as fact. And once it accepts it, it must express it. The outer world cannot help but conform to your sustained inner reality. Most people fail not because they don't pray, but because they don't persist. They visit the end state once and then return to the old story. They allow current facts to override their vision. But manifestation is born from persistence. Repetition of the inner feeling until it becomes your new normal, that is the prayer that works. That is the vibration that creates. It doesn't matter how long it takes, it only matters how firmly you dwell. Even if the world shows you nothing new, keep dwelling, keep feeling the outcome as if it has already happened. Keep accepting the reality of your inner world no matter how the outer appears. This silent persistence becomes louder than any action you could take. It becomes a command to the universe that must be obeyed. When you dwell in the end, you are not asking, you are being. You are embodying the version of yourself who already has, who already is, who already knows. That identity becomes your prayer. That energy becomes your signal, and that unwavering state becomes the magnet through which all things begin to flow to you. You do not need to announce your vision. You do not need to share your goals. Silence is strength. When you persist inwardly, life shifts outwardly. Quietly, steadily, without force. Just like a seed breaks through the soil in silence, so too does your fulfilled state break into your world. So stay there. Stay in the end. Feel it, live it, own it. And let your world echo what you have dared to believe in secret. Because prayers work, not when you ask, but when you persist. In the sacred stillness of your inner world, the true power of creation unfolds. It is not your words, but your silent assumptions, not your effort, but your unwavering faith, not your struggle, but your imagination that moves mountains. Every desire you hold is a divine signal, an invitation to receive. And when you persist in the feeling of fulfillment, without doubt, without needing proof, the universe aligns itself to your inner claim. This is the silent prayer that wins. Not by noise, but by truth. Remain loyal to your vision. Dwell in the end, and let life reflect the reality you've already accepted within. Everything you seek is already yours the moment you believe. Say thank you. Thank you for listening with your heart. May you walk forward with quiet confidence, divine faith, and the boldness to imagine your world is already complete. Keep returning to the silence within. It is the source of your power. Thank you, truly. You are not behind, you are not late, you are exactly where eternity placed you. The dreams you've nurtured quietly, the desires you've held in sacred silence, they were never ignored. They were never denied. They were simply being prepared. Because your time has come. There is a rhythm to this life that does not follow the ticking of man's clock. It follows something far more ancient, far more intelligent. Divine timing. It sees what you cannot. It weaves what you could never plan. And when it is your moment, no force in heaven or earth can prevent it. What is yours will come. Not because you fought for it, but because you aligned with it. You must understand this truth. Desire is not an empty wish. It is revelation. The moment you felt it, your heart saw a future your eyes hadn't caught up to. Desire is the whisper of destiny calling you into remembrance. And now that you remember, you must trust. No more watching the clock. No more checking your phone for signs, for validation. The real change is never out there. It happens in here, in the quiet acceptance, in the inner knowing. Let the world say what it wants. Let the noise rise and fall. You are not disturbed. You know. Your time has come. Feel it. Not tomorrow, not someday. Now, live today as though the prayer is already answered. Walk as though the door has already opened. Speak as if the blessing is already in your hands. And when doubt comes, as it does, do not fight it. Simply return to your knowing. Knowing does not need evidence. It is the evidence. You do not chase what belongs to you. You welcome it. You receive it. You prepare room for it. The river of your life is flowing again, and this time it's carrying everything you once thought was lost. Trust it, flow with it, be still in it. Your time has come. Now trust the divine timing. It's already done. What you call a delay is not a denial. What you interpret as silence is often sacred alignment. There is a rhythm to life that moves in perfect harmony with your highest good, even when it appears as stillness. You may not always understand the unfolding, but the unfolding has never been random. It is precise. Divine timing operates beyond the logic of human calendars and clocks. It moves according to the invisible laws that shape reality from within. And when you begin to trust that rhythm, rather than resist it, you unlock the power of peace. We live in a world obsessed with urgency, everything now, fast, immediate. But true creation is never rushed. It matures in silence. A seed does not burst through the soil in the same moment it is planted. The darkness it lies in is not a grave. It is a womb. It is where the roots go deep. It is where the structure is built for the miracle to stand strong. So when your dream seems far or your desire feels unanswered, remember, what seems like a delay is only divine precision, setting everything in its rightful place. Have you ever looked back at moments in your life that felt like rejection, only to realize they were protection? That what didn't happen made space for something far better than you had imagined? That's not coincidence, that's divine orchestration. That's life working for you, not against you, even when you couldn't see it yet. Every so-called detour was a redirection. Every pause was preparation. The universe does not operate in error, and you, being one with it, are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are being perfectly timed. You see, the divine doesn't rush, because it doesn't need to. It knows. It sees beyond your momentary vision. It is not bound by your sense of urgency, and when you become still enough to feel that, truly feel it, anxiety disappears. The need to force, to chase, to beg dissolves. You start to rest, even while the world is still moving. You walk in faith, not in fear. You stop measuring your life by outcomes, and instead by alignment, by how much you can trust the unseen, how deeply you can rest in the promise that what is for you cannot miss you. This is not about waiting passively, this is about waiting powerfully. Waiting with awareness, with expectancy, knowing that what you desire is not ahead of you, but already with you, in consciousness. The delay is only in form, not in truth. The moment you imagined it, you began to live it. But to see it with your eyes, you must believe it in your heart, and belief is not impatient, belief is sure. Belief says, even though I do not see it, I know it is done. There is no such thing as too late in the realm of the divine. Time bends to the command of inner conviction. And if something hasn't shown up yet, it's because the stage is still being set, or because something better is coming instead. Trust that you are being placed, not paused, that you are being positioned, not punished. Nothing is being withheld, it is being readied. The beauty of divine timing is that it humbles the ego and strengthens the spirit. It asks you to let go of control and lean into surrender. It doesn't demand effort, it invites faith. And when you trust in that timing, you walk differently. You breathe deeper. You stop striving and start allowing. You move from survival to creation. You are not waiting on life. Life is waiting on your alignment. And once it clicks into place, what took years in the making appears to arrive in a moment. But it was never sudden. It was simply right on time. Not a second early, not a breath too late, always right on time. Desire is not something that randomly visits you. It is not a fleeting emotion or an accidental thought. It is a revelation, a sacred signal from within. When you feel a deep longing for something, it is not proof of lack. It is evidence of life calling you into a version of yourself that already exists. You do not desire what you cannot become. You do not imagine what you are not ready to receive. That desire, that pull, that vision, that fire in your heart is confirmation. Confirmation that it's already yours. The moment you imagined it, you did not create the desire, you discovered it. You uncovered something that was always within you, waiting for recognition, like a seed that has lain dormant in the soil, just waiting for the sun to touch it. That's what desire is. It is the sun touching the seed of who you truly are. The moment it was imagined, it was planted. The moment you believed it, it began to grow. And so many people misunderstand this process. They feel the desire and immediately begin to look outward. They search, they chase, they beg. But you don't need to chase what's already been given. What you truly desire is not outside of you, it is within you, and it is seeking expression. The outside world is only the mirror. The real creation happens inwardly. The real shift begins in your awareness. Think of it like this. The moment a woman knows she is pregnant, the child is not yet visible, but she is already a mother. Her world changes not because of what she sees, but because of what she knows. She begins to prepare. She acts as if. She walks in faith of what is becoming. This is the way desire works. The moment you become aware of it, the life connected to that desire has already begun forming. It is not waiting for your approval. It is waiting for your belief. That's why belief is the bridge. Desire will rise up in you, but belief carries it into experience. When you deny your desire, when you doubt it or belittle it, you pause the process. But when you accept it fully, without question, you accelerate it, you align with it. And in that alignment, everything begins to respond. Life shifts, circumstances bend. People and moments move, all to reflect what you've chosen to accept as real. People think, I will believe it when I see it. But the law is the reverse. You will see it when you believe it. You must hold it first in the inner world before it ever appears in the outer. This is why imagination is so sacred. It is not fantasy. It is the first creation. The world you see begins in the world you don't. When you feel that deep longing, the one that won't go away, the one that returns no matter how many times you try to silence it, that is not your weakness. That is the future version of you pulling you forward, whispering, I'm already here. That is not distance. It is recognition. You've already met the life you're destined for, just not in physical form. Yet, so stop questioning your desires. Stop wondering if you're worthy of them. You would not desire what wasn't meant for you. You would not be shown a vision that wasn't available to you. The fact that you see it, feel it, crave it, that is the proof. Don't look for more evidence. You are the evidence. You are the beginning of it, and you are also the end. You are the one who imagined it, and you are the one who will become it. Let it grow. Feed it with certainty, water it with gratitude, live in the reality of its truth, even before it shows up in physical form. Because the moment you desired it, the process began, not one day, not soon, now. And now that you know, all that's left is to trust the unfolding. Desire is not a wish. It is a signal, and that signal only shows up when arrival is near. You must stop measuring your life by the ticking of the clock. Time is not your master. It is not the judge of your worth or the proof of your progress. You were never meant to be ruled by minutes or hours, for the greatest movements in life do not begin on the outside, they begin within. When you look to the world and see nothing changing, it is not because nothing is happening. It is because you are still being asked to trust, to go inward, to create in silence. The outer world is the echo, the inner world is the voice. The moment you forget that, you begin to feel lost. You start to chase time, beg for signs, look for evidence. You compare your pace to others. You think, why is it taking so long? But it is never about how long. It is always about how deep. How deep you can go within yourself, how deep you can trust what is unseen. That is where the real transformation lives, not in the minutes past, but in the beliefs held. You are not late, you are not behind, you are simply being asked to align. Because the truth is, the life you desire is not running away from you. You are turning away from it every time you measure your becoming by what the clock says. You are not bound by time, you are bound by perception. Change that. and everything follows. Faith does not ask when. Faith says it is already done. Faith sees movements in the stillness, progress in the silence, answers in the quiet. When you stop watching the clock, you begin to hear your soul. You begin to move not out of fear of being late, but out of knowing you are right on time. The clock will tell you that nothing is happening, but your inner world knows the truth. It knows that your faith is forming what the eyes cannot yet see. It knows that your assumption of being your quiet conviction is what shapes the unfolding of the next moment. So ask yourself, are you looking outward for proof or inward for possible? Or are you using your inner knowing to decide what is? Because the clock is neutral. It has no power over you unless you give it permission. What changes your life is not time but consciousness. A shift in consciousness collapses time. It moves mountains. It rearranges the structure of your world in ways the rational mind cannot explain. The moment you stop needing the clock to affirm you, you free yourself from the illusion that you are lacking. There is no delay, there is only alignment. There is no waiting, there is only becoming. And the becoming begins not when the clock strikes a certain hour, but when your inner world aligns with the truth of what already is. That's when life responds. That's when doors open. That's when timing makes sense, not because the hours finally lined up, but because you did. So stop staring at the calendar. Stop counting the days. Start noticing your thoughts. Start checking your beliefs. Are you living in faith or fear? Are you embodying the version of you who already has it, or the one who doubts it's coming? Because the world doesn't respond to time, it responds to identity. And the moment you shift that identity from seeker to receiver, everything changes. This is your power. It has always been within. The world you desire will appear not when the clock says so, but when your spirit knows so. And that knowing lives within you now. Not tomorrow, not next year. Now, your doubt delays, your belief delivers. It is as simple and as powerful as that. The moment you entertain a question about whether it will happen, whether you are worthy, whether it's even possible, you shift yourself into delay, not because the universe has denied you, not because the path has changed, but because your own awareness has. The delay doesn't come from the world. Every thought you hold is a command. Every assumption you accept becomes law. When you doubt, you tell the world to pause. You say, I am not ready to receive. You cut yourself off from the unfolding that was already moving toward you. And the most dangerous part, it doesn't always feel like doubt. It often comes dressed as logic, reason, responsibility. I'm just being realistic, you might say. But reality bends to belief, not the other way around. What you affirm consistently with conviction and persistence must come to pass. There is no confusion in the universe. There is only alignment. And the moment you choose certainty over confusion, faith over fear, you move, you draw things to you not through effort but through embodiment. You become the version of yourself who already has it, already knows it, already lives it. And the world responds to that version. Because life is not giving you what you want, it's reflecting who you are. The only thing ever missing is your decision. The decision to believe, to know, to stand firm even when the senses report otherwise. Most people delay their lives by waiting for the outer world to convince them before they believe, but that is not how this works. Belief comes first. It is the key that unlocks the experience, and that belief must be sustained, even in silence. Because silence is not absence, it's preparation. Think of a seed planted in soil. You cannot see it. You don't know what it's doing beneath the surface, but you water it anyway. You tend to it with trust. You know that something is happening not because you can see it, but because you believe it. The same applies to your desires. The moment you decide this is mine, the process begins. But if you dig it up every day with questions, with fear, with what if, you stop the growth. You delay the bloom. To question constantly is to send mixed signals to life. You say yes, then you say no. You call it in, then push it away. But when you affirm, consistently, boldly, quietly, you build momentum. You anchor yourself in the version of you who already has it, and that inner posture creates the outer manifestation. Certainty is not loud. It's not about shouting affirmations or forcing positivity. It's about that deep inner knowing, the calm conviction, the subtle shift from hoping to knowing. You walk differently. When you know, you speak differently. You act differently. You no longer need proof because you are the proof. And that's the truth most miss. Your belief is the cause, not the effect. Life does not happen to you, it happens through you. And your job is not to chase, to beg, or to doubt. Your job is to know, to dwell in the end, to live as though it has already been done, because in the higher realms of consciousness it has. The path is always clear, the process is always working. It is only your inner wavering that clouds the vision. But the moment you choose again to trust, to affirm, to believe, you snap back into alignment. You unlock the next step. You receive what has always been yours. There is no need to question. Life is not confused. It is only waiting on your clarity. Your doubt delays, your belief delivers. Choose belief and let the rest unfold. There is a rhythm to all of life, and it has never been out of tune. Seasons do not rush each other, nor do they compete. Winter does not envy spring, and spring does not chase summer. Each unfolds in perfect order, delivering exactly what is needed when it is needed. So too does your life move in seasons, and the one you are stepping into now is the one you've been waiting for. You may not have seen the shift with your eyes yet, but your spirit knows. You can feel it deep within, that quiet stirring, that subtle sense of readiness. The longing that once felt like ache now feels like anticipation. The stillness that once felt like waiting now feels like preparation. What once was invisible is beginning to form. This is not coincidence. This is your appointed season. There is a time to sow, a time to grow, and a time to know. And that knowing doesn't come from logic, it comes from alignment, from the still voice that says, now, this is the moment. Not because the world has confirmed it, but because your spirit has. Because you've reached a point where you no longer ask if it's coming, you simply accept that it is. You've lived long enough in the in-between, now you are walking into the bloom. What you held in faith, what you nurtured in silence, what you imagined when no one else could see it, is making its way to you. Not as a result of effort or time, but because the season has turned. The energy that once demanded patience is now offering release. What you once had to hold in vision is now ready to meet you in form. And you'll recognize it not by its appearance, but by the peace it brings, by how familiar it feels, as if it always belonged to you, because it did. But let this be known, the season did not arrive by accident. It came because of your persistence, your trust, your inner work. You stayed the course. You continued to believe when the world gave you every reason not to. You spoke life over your vision when no one else believed in it. And now, life is responding. This moment is not a reward, it is a reflection. It mirrors your decision to align with what already was yours in spirit. Now it must appear in matter. Because consciousness is the only cause, and you have shifted. You no longer live from desire, you live from fulfillment. And that shift has altered everything. What had no place to land before now finds you ready, open, and receiving. There is no need to try to make it happen. You are not meant to chase. You are meant to allow, to walk in the confidence that this is your time, that the doors will open not because you forced them, but because you are finally a match for what's behind them. Life will not withhold from you. It only waits for your inner readiness. And you are ready now. You may not know how it will unfold, but you no longer need to. You've released the need to control the process. You've surrendered the timeline, and in doing so, you've stepped into divine flow. This is the season where what you once chased begins to find you. What you once waited for begins to appear. The answers, the opportunities, the openings, they arrive not because you demand them, but because you become them. So walk with certainty now, speak with authority, move as one who knows, not hopes, that everything is working in perfect order, because it is. And the time for wondering, for doubting, for waiting is over. The secret is not in chasing, striving, or forcing life into form. The secret is in assuming the feeling of your desire fulfilled and then letting go. That is the doorway to divine timing. That is the path that carries you beyond delay, beyond resistance, and into the natural unfolding of what is already yours. Because what is meant for you isn't behind effort, it's behind embodiment. Everything you seek is already complete in the unseen. It exists in the invisible, waiting only for one thing, your alignment with it. And alignment is not struggle. It is not effort, it is not a list of tasks or external rituals. It is internal permission. It is the moment you stop trying to get it and start feeling as if it's already done. That subtle shift from yearning to knowing is the key that opens every locked door. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you're not pretending, you're creating. The mind may say, but where is it? Why hasn't it come? That voice is rooted in time and separation. But the soul knows. It is already here. To feel it now is to bring it here. To accept it inwardly is to allow it to appear outwardly. And once you've assumed that feeling, that deep inner certainty that it is done, let go. That is just as essential. Holding on tightly with fear only tells the universe you're not actually in possession. Desperation is not faith, it is doubt in disguise. You cannot hold both the feeling of having and the fear of losing at the same time. You must choose. So choose rest, choose peace, choose the stillness that knows the seed is already planted and therefore must bloom. Letting go is not giving up, it is giving over. Giving over the how, the when, the details that were never your job to begin with. Your only work is the inner work, the feeling, the assumption, the belief that it's already so. And then you move through life with quiet confidence, no longer asking, will it happen, but rather, how will it delight me when it does? That is where miracles live, in the surrender, in the space where you no longer need to force the outcome because you are already living in the result. The energy of receiving is soft, relaxed, open. When you feel it real and let go, you become magnetic. You become a match for the very thing you desire because you stop desiring and started being. You don't need to rehearse it in your mind 100 times. You don't need to beg the world to agree with your vision. You only need to embody it. Carry the feeling with you the way you wear a favorite garment. Silently, comfortably, confidently. You don't walk through the world asking if your coat is still on, you know it is. So too must you wear your assumption. Live from the end, not toward it. Feel now what you used to postpone for someday. Someday is a myth. There is only now. And in this now, you can choose to align, to embody, to relax into what already belongs to you. Divine timing is never late, never confused, it is exact. And the moment you align with your vision, without gripping it, it starts moving toward you. Not because you chased it, but because you became it. So assume the feeling, let it wash over you. Let it become your new home. Then release it into the unseen, knowing it's done. This is not denial of reality, it is mastery over it. Because reality bends to assumption. And when you rest in what you've already received, the world will rearrange itself to deliver it into your hand. Your time has come. Not because the world says so, but because you know so. You felt the shift within. You've honored the unseen. You've trusted the delays not as punishments but as precision. You've stopped watching the clock and started listening to the still voice inside, the voice that whispers, "It is done." You no longer doubt. You no longer wait with worry. You walk with assurance, speak with confidence, and rest with peace. The desire you carried was not random. It was revelation, proof that it was already yours in spirit. And now it must appear in form. Divine timing is never late. It only waits for your agreement. And now you have agreed. You've stopped striving. You've assumed the feeling. You've let go. And in that surrender, you have aligned yourself with the miraculous. So trust the process. Trust your power. Trust the invisible order that has always been working on your behalf. Your season is now. Thank you for walking this journey within. Stay faithful to your inner world, for it is the blueprint of everything you shall ever hold. Close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, but to awaken. For it is not in effort, but in awareness, that transformation takes place. The version of you that you long to be already exists, not in the far-off future, but in this very moment, suspended in consciousness, waiting only for your acceptance. To act as the millionaire version of you is not pretense. It is recognition. Begin not by changing your clothes, your car, or your calendar. Begin by changing your conception of self. Walk in the awareness that you are already all you desire to be. When you open your wallet, do not curse its emptiness. Instead, bless its potential, for what you accept within will manifest without. If you desire to be wealthy, then embody the wealth now. How does that version of you speak, think, move? Decide. Do not wait for permission from the world. The world waits for instruction from you. Go into the silence. There, assume the tone, the feeling, the energy of abundance. Do not wish for wealth. Be it. When doubts arise, and they will, return to your center. Say quietly to yourself, "This is who I am now." Not someday, not when circumstances agree. Now. You must not strive to become. You must accept that you already are. The world may laugh at your boldness, let it. The truth does not require applause. Live today in the feeling that all is yours already. And in time, the world will echo your inner claim with evidence. You are not hoping for a different life. You are remembering who you truly are. Act from that remembrance. Spend from that confidence. Walk in that knowing. This is how you act as the millionaire version of you. You are not waiting to become wealthy. That is the great illusion, the belief that wealth is somewhere out there in the future, waiting to arrive when certain conditions are met. But the truth is far simpler and far more profound. You become wealthy the moment you assume that you are. And when you do, the world has no choice but to reflect it. Imagination is not daydreaming, it is not fantasy, it is creative power in its purest form. What you imagine with feeling, you clothe in form. The outer world is nothing more than a mirror, and it reflects faithfully the images you hold within yourself, those to which you give life through repetition, belief, and emotion. You are not shaping your world through action first. Action is the echo. The true cause lies in the unseen. Before any wealth appears in the physical, it must be conceived in the mind and felt in the body. When you imagine yourself as wealthy, when you fully embody that idea, something shifts. Not out there, but within. You begin to make decisions differently. You carry yourself differently. You perceive differently. You attract and repel based on that new identity. Many people believe that imagination is childish or make-believe. But look around you. Everything that is man-made was first imagined. The chair you sit on, the house you live in, the clothes on your back, all once lived in the unseen. Someone imagined them, believed in them, and held to that vision until the world responded. Why then would your own life be any different? The mistake most people make is that they live in reaction. They observe what is and accept it as final. They look at their bank account, their job, their circumstances, and say, "This is who I am." But this is not who you are. This is who you were. It is merely the result of past assumptions, past beliefs, and past imaginings. If you do not like what you see, then it is you. You change not by force, but by vision. You sit quietly, you close your eyes, and you see yourself differently. You feel what it's like to have more than enough. You taste the freedom of choice. You hear the confidence in your voice. You walk in that scene, not looking at it as a distant observer, but participating in it now in the first person. You make it vivid. You saturate it with feeling. You believe it. Not because you see it, but because you know it. And then you carry that feeling into your day. You hold it like a sacred secret. You act, speak, and think from that new state, not toward it, but from it. You declare, "I am." That is the key. The moment you shift your identity, reality has no choice but to conform. It may not happen instantly. There may be echoes of the old state for a while. But if you persist in your assumption, it must materialize. So you must stop waiting. Waiting implies it is not yours. Hoping implies doubt. Needing implies lack. Instead, be it. Feel it. Trust it. Your imagination is the doorway. It is not a suggestion, it is the blueprint, it is the law by which all things come to be. Every day, revisit the image of who you desire to be, not with longing, but with conviction. Make it real to you, make it normal, make it inevitable, and soon the world around you will bow to that inner command. For what is imagined with feeling must become fact. The only thing you ever truly possess is your state of being. Not your car, not your house, not your job, not even your name. These are all temporary conditions, changeable, unstable, subject to decay and loss. But your state, your inner awareness, your assumption of identity is the one thing that determines everything else. You can be stripped of possessions, of recognition, of status, but the state you occupy within cannot be taken from you unless you surrender to yourself. If you believe yourself to be lacking, struggling, unseen, then even if money touches your hands, it will vanish. Even if opportunity knocks, you will not answer. Why? Because your state does not match it. You are not tuned to that channel. You are living in the consciousness of lack, and so abundance cannot stay. It is like oil on water. It does not mix. But when you live now in the consciousness of wealth, everything begins to shift. You do not have to force anything. You do not have to hustle or grind your way to visibility. The outer world, which seems so real, is only a shadow, an obedient servant to your inner world. And when the inner changes, the outer must obey. This is not about pretending. It is not about faking confidence or acting wealthy for the sake of appearances. It is about identifying yourself inwardly as one who already has, already is, already lives in fullness. And when that becomes your truth, the world begins to echo it. You walk differently when you are not trying to get something, but when you know you already have it. You speak differently, with calm and certainty. You are not desperate, you are not chasing, you are allowing. And this subtle shift, the movement from striving to being, is the birthplace of all manifestation. You do not need to know how it will come. That is not your role. Your role is simple: to dwell in the state of the wish fulfilled, to feel now what it would feel like if everything you wanted were already yours. Not someday, not if you're lucky, but now. The world around you is a loyal mirror. If it seems cold or indifferent, check the state you are in. If it seems full of obstacles, ask yourself what story you've been telling internally. Everything out there is only reflecting what's going on in here. People think they need to change their job, move to a different city, meet different people. But these are effects, not causes. Rearranging shadows does not change the source of the light. The true shift happens within. Occupy the state of wealth, of success, of peace, whatever it is you desire, and let the world respond to that. It will, it has to. It is bound by the same law that governs the rising of the sun and the falling of the rain. You can test this today, right now. Without moving a muscle, you can assume the feeling of already being the person you dream of becoming. Close your eyes and feel it real. Let it soak into your bones. Carry that with you and watch what happens. It may not unfold exactly as you imagine, but it will come. It will come in the form that most faithfully matches the state you dwell in. So choose your state carefully, revisit it often, guard it fiercely. For your state is not just a mood, it is your creative center. And in that center, everything you seek already lives. All things follow consciousness, because consciousness is the only reality. Don't reach for money. Don't strive, grasp, or chase after it. These actions are born from the belief that you don't already possess it, that it is somewhere out there, away from you, withheld. But that belief itself creates the very distance you wish to close. You must instead embody the emotional tone of already having it, that feeling. Calm, secure, grateful, free is the secret gateway through which it enters your life. Everything begins with a feeling. Not with effort, not with logic, not with statistics. The outer world is moved by the inner state, and the inner state is dictated by feeling. When you feel rich, you live differently. You breathe decisions from a place of confidence instead of fear. And when you live from that place, reality bends to mirror it. To truly manifest wealth, you must dwell in the end, not think about it as a concept, but feel it as a lived reality. It is not enough to say, I want to be rich. You must become emotionally involved with the idea of already being rich. How would you feel if it were already done? What would change in your posture, your voice, your inner dialogue? You see, the subconscious mind, the true builder of your life, does not distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined and felt. When you feel it as real, it becomes impressed upon that deeper mind, and what is impressed there must be expressed out here. When you worry about bills, when you obsess over lack, when you beg and plead for money, you are sending a message that you are separate from it, that it is not yet yours, and so it remains elusive. But the moment you enter into the feeling of already having more than enough, you bridge the gap. You bring the unseen into form. This is not pretending, this is creation. Pretending is weak. It is play acting without belief. But creation is conviction. It is entering the emotional space of your fulfilled desire so deeply that your entire body, mind, and spirit align with it. Feeling is the key. Not words, not repetition, but desperation, but feeling. So ask yourself, what does abundance feel like to me? Not what it looks like, not what it buys, but what does it feel like? Is it freedom? Is it peace? Is it security? Is it joy? Identify that core emotion and begin to cultivate it now, without waiting, without needing the world to change first. You do this in stillness, in silence. You close your eyes and surrender the outer world. You enter the inner sanctuary and begin to construct the scene of your fulfilled desire. Not as a distant hope, but as a present truth, you feel the comfort of knowing everything is paid for. You hear the voice of calm saying you are taken care of. You sense the lightness in your chest, the ease in your breath, and you carry that tone into your day, not to get something, but because you already are something. The greatest trap you will ever face is the one presented by your senses. What you see, hear, touch, and measure appears so final, so fixed, that you forget it is nothing more than a shadow cast by a deeper truth. You look at your bank account, your job, your circumstances, and without knowing it, you accept them as who you are. But this is the lie. This is the illusion. You are not your current condition. You are your inner conviction and nothing more. To detach from the outer world is not to ignore it or pretend it doesn't exist. It is to stop letting it define you. It is to stop bowing to appearances. You must understand that the world outside is only a mirror. It has no power of its own. It is a reflection of your inner state, your assumptions, and your persistent beliefs. When you react to what is, you freeze yourself in place. You declare, "This is real," and by doing so you keep it alive. But when you turn inward, when you choose your feeling over your facts, you unlock your true power. You begin to move from creation rather than reaction. You stop chasing reality and begin shaping it. The world may tell you you're broke. It may scream limitation. But if within you feel wealthy, secure, and free, then your assumption will in time harden into fact. This is the discipline. To remain faithful to your inner knowing when everything outside contradicts it. To walk in the feeling of "I have," even when the evidence insists you don't. This is not delusion. It is divine authority. It is choosing to live from the cause, not the effect. You must remember, conditions are not permanent. They are merely the echo of a previous assumption. They are yesterday's thoughts clothed in today's form. So if you don't like what you see, do not fight with it. Do not beg it to change. Simply withdraw your attention from it and place it upon the unseen reality you prefer. Imagination is your secret sanctuary. There you are free. There you are unbound. You can construct the scene of your desired life and dwell in it as if it were already true. Not looking at it from afar, but living in it now, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And if you remain loyal to that inner world, if you refuse to betray it for what your eyes see, then the outer must conform. So do not let a number on a screen define your identity. Do not let the opinion of others shake your knowing. Your only job is to assume the state of the person you desire to be and hold it. Not for a minute, not for a day, but until it becomes your natural dwelling place. Until you forget there was ever a time you were not it. You are not meant to live in reaction, you are meant to live in vision. The senses will try to distract you. They will try to convince you of lack, delay, and impossibility. But they are only reporting what was, not what is coming. They are slow to catch up to the speed of your imagination. So detach, not with resistance, but with calm, with certainty, with quiet power. Choose again and again to believe in your inner conviction more than the outer condition. Choose to walk by faith, not by sight, because the moment you do, reality begins to bend. Subtle at first, then obvious, then undeniable. And one day, the world will reflect exactly what you once chose to believe when no one else could see it. You will look around and realize it was never the outer world that held the power. It was always you. The key is not to wish, not to hope, but to assume and persist in that assumption. You are already the millionaire version of yourself, not because your outer world shows it yet, but because within you have claimed it, and once claimed, it is yours. But this is not a one-time act. It is not a passing thought or a moment of excitement. It is a daily return, a quiet, unwavering commitment to the inner knowing that what you have assumed is real. This is the secret of all transformation. Persistence in the assumption. You must return again and again to that still place within you where your new identity lives. You visit it in silence. You dwell in it in stillness. And you walk out into the world as if nothing could contradict it. Because to the one who assumes correctly, nothing can. The outer world will often lag behind. It may reflect fragments of the old state. People may speak to you based on who you used to be. Circumstances may challenge you to doubt. But none of it matters. What matters is your loyalty to the new version of you, the one who already has, already is, already lives in wealth. Do not confuse repetition with persistence. Repetition is mechanical. Persistence is alive. It's emotional. It's your decision to feel it real again and again until the feeling becomes familiar, until it becomes natural. That's when the shift happens, when the new state no longer feels like something you're reaching for, but something you simply are. Ask yourself, how does the millionaire version of me think? How does he or she move through the world? What does that person believe about life, about money, about self-worth? And then assume those answers. Put them on like clothing, not with effort, but with inner certainty. Because when you wear a state long enough, the world no longer questions it. It accepts it as truth. Your assumption is more powerful than your environment. It overrides facts. It dissolves obstacles. It reorganizes events and people and timing. But only if you hold to it. You cannot shift from assumption to doubt and expect the world to stay in alignment. You must return. Again and again, you must persist. This persistence is not hard, it's not a struggle, it's gentle, it's sacred. You wake up in the morning and align. Before the noise of the world enters, you anchor yourself in the feeling of already having. You return at night just before sleep when the conscious mind loosens, and you impress the subconscious with your truth. I am already it. Between waking and sleeping, you remain faithful. Not perfect, not rigid, but faithful. When doubt whispers, you don't argue, you don't fight, you simply return. You rest in the knowing. You let your inner conviction speak louder than your outer senses. This is the game of the awakened soul, to know that the world is clay and your assumption is the hand that shapes it. But shaping takes consistency. You wouldn't expect a seed to sprout without care. Likewise, your assumption must be watered daily, quietly. So do not ask, where is it? That question belongs to the old state. Instead, declare it is done and then live from that truth in your thoughts, your feelings, your actions. Because when you persist in the assumption that you are already who you desire to be, the world can do nothing but yield. There is a profound shift that happens when you stop striving to become and instead begin to act from the truth that you already are. This shift is subtle to the world, but seismic within. It is the moment you decide that there is nothing to chase, nothing to reach for, nothing to wait on, because what you desire is already yours in consciousness. And since consciousness is the only true reality, that means it is already so. You are not acting toward the millionaire version of you. That path is filled with effort, delay, and the quiet assumption that you are not yet there. Instead, you act from it, because in the unseen, in the imagination, in the core of your being, you already possess the thing the world tells you is still far away. And once you act from that inner state, life begins to mold itself to match it. This does not mean forcing or pretending. You are not to walk through life arrogantly or artificially, but naturally. Let it be a gentle embodiment, a deep knowing that changes how you speak, how you respond, how you move. The person who already is never needs to prove. They move in certainty, they carry peace, not urgency. When you move from the state of already being it, you no longer ask for signs. You no longer wonder when or how. Those questions only arise from the belief that it is not yet yours. Instead, you make choices from your new identity. You think, what would I do if I already had it? And then you do that. Not because you're trying to make something happen, but because that is who you are now. The world will try to convince you otherwise. It will say, be realistic, look at your circumstances, but the awakened soul knows better. You are not here to react to the outer, you are here to create from the inner. Your imagination is not fantasy, it is the blueprint of your becoming. And the moment you act from it, you fuse with it. Imagine a stage play. The actor who truly becomes the role doesn't think about how to get there. They act from the character moment to moment. The audience believes it, not because it's real yet, but because the actor believes it first. And so must you. You are not preparing to be the millionaire version of you, you are stepping into it. Now, this inner assumption expresses itself outwardly in the smallest of ways: how you carry yourself, the decisions you make, the boundaries you set, the way you invest your time. Each action taken from the state reinforces the state, and every time you act from it, the old state loses power. Eventually, it dissolves. Don't confuse this with external validation. You are not waiting for the world to confirm who you are. You are moving as if it already has. And ironically, it is because you no longer need confirmation that confirmation begins to show up. People treat you differently. Opportunities unfold, doors open, not because you chased them, but because your assumption commanded them. If ever you slip, if doubt creeps in, don't condemn yourself. Simply return. Return to the feeling, the vision, the knowing, and from that place, live again. Speak again. Choose again. This is the art of embodiment, not wishing, not hoping, but dwelling in the consciousness of your desired state and acting from it, naturally, consistently, faithfully. Because when you act from the state, you no longer seek transformation, you express it. And the outer world, ever obedient to your inner conviction, has no choice but to follow. The truth has always been simple. You are not here to become, you are here to remember who you already are. The millionaire version of you is not some distant dream waiting to unfold. It is a present reality waiting for your recognition. Through imagination, through persistence in assumption, through detachment from the scene, and through acting from the state rather than toward it, you awaken to the truth. Your world is nothing but the shadow cast by your inner state. Live now as though it is done. Think from the end. Feel from the wish fulfilled. Do not concern yourself with time or appearances. The world will always bend itself to the shape of your self-concept. You don't have to chase or beg or force, because you already are. The moment you claim it within, you begin to see it without. So I remind you, walk with the quiet certainty of someone who knows their imagination creates reality. Stay loyal to the vision, even in the silence, especially in the silence. The world is shifting in ways you cannot yet see. Your only task is to remain faithful to the state of being, the one who already has. Thank you for listening, and thank you for remembering your power. It's already yours. They said, you only have $7 to your name, but I had more than they could see. You see, the $7 were just part of the illusion, the curtain. Behind it, in the silence of my soul, I was already rich. I closed my eyes and I saw what they couldn't. I saw my name engraved on buildings. I saw success greeting me like an old friend. I felt it. I lived it. Before a single dollar came. The moment you accept the outer world as truth, you've already surrendered your power. The moment you say, I'm broke, I can't, or it's too late, you've stepped out of creation and into illusion. But I stayed loyal to the unseen vision. I did not chase riches. I assumed them. I did not wait for millions, I walked in them. When I had only $7 cents, I would lay in silence and enter a world where I was already free. I would imagine my bank account overflowing, not to make it happen, but because in my soul it had already happened. That is the secret, to walk in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. To feel now what you once believed you needed to wait for. You are not here to prove. You are here to become. I became a millionaire in mind, and the world had no choice but to follow. That $7.00 was the test. Would I define myself by it, or would I transcend it? I chose transcendence, and in doing so I unlocked something greater than money. Unlocked dominion, creation, power. And when $800 million 0 cents finally came, I did not celebrate as a man surprised. I smiled, like someone who had already lived it 1,000 times before. They told me I was broke. That $7 in my pocket meant I had nothing. But they didn't understand. My wealth was never measured by the number in my account. It was measured by the depth of the image I held within. Because all riches, all abundance, all transformation begins in the mind, not in the world. What they couldn't see was that I had already become wealthy, long before the world showed me proof. When I looked at that $7.00, I didn't see lack. I didn't see a limitation. I didn't say I'm poor. I said, this is temporary, and more than that, I knew it. I felt the truth that I am the source of everything I experience. And that means that no amount of money, no bank balance, no external evidence could ever dictate what I was truly worth. I wasn't just holding on to a dollar bill, I was holding on to a vision. The world tries to convince you that the power is outside of you, that success is something you chase, something you earn through struggle, something you arrive at after years of sacrifice. But I had already arrived. Not physically, but internally. I was already living in a new world, one where wealth flowed freely, where my name echoed in rooms I hadn't stepped into yet. Not because I had proof, but because I had imagination. And imagination is everything. When I closed my eyes, I saw a version of myself far removed from that moment. Not a man with $7.00, but a man with millions. I saw myself walking differently, speaking with confidence, carrying a presence that could not be ignored. And most importantly, I felt it. Not as something I hoped for, but as something that already was. That's the secret. Living in the end, embodying the result before it ever shows up. Most people look around and let what they see determine who they are. But I did the opposite. I let who I decided to be reshape what I saw. I refused to let a number define me. Because that's not how creation works. The truth is, you don't get rich by hustling harder. You get rich by seeing yourself as already rich. You don't become successful by struggling to prove yourself. You become successful the moment you claim it inwardly and move as though it's already done. And this isn't fantasy, this isn't make-believe, this is the only real power you have. Everything you experience begins within you. Every dollar, every opportunity, every relationship, every breakthrough. It all flows from the image you hold, the identity you accept, and the state you live in. And I chose to assume the version of me that had already overcome, already achieved, already broken through. And the moment I became that man in imagination, the world began to rearrange itself around me. The $7.00 didn't change overnight, but I did. And because I changed, everything else eventually had to. That's the law. The outer world mirrors the inner one. And if the inner is filled with confidence, belief, vision, and unwavering conviction, then the outer will rise to meet it. That is the true seed of wealth, not a bank account, but a belief, not a check, but a choice, not circumstances, but consciousness. I didn't need investors. I didn't need luck. I needed only one thing: faith in the unseen. And with that faith, I nurtured the vision daily, fed it with feeling, protected it from doubt, and carried it within me like a treasure. So yes, I started with $7.00, but I held $1 million in my mind, and that mind, when disciplined and directed, has the power to create empires. The world thought I was broke, but I was already building wealth in the only place that mattered: within. The moment I looked at the $7.00 in my wallet, I knew I had a choice. I could stare at it, analyze it, stress over it, let it dictate how I felt, and spiral into doubt. Or I could ignore it completely, not out of denial, but out of understanding. I understood something most people never learn. The power is not in the current fact, but in the assumed outcome. I didn't dwell on the $7.00. I didn't give it the authority to define who I was. Instead, I dwelled in the feeling of the end. I assumed the result. I chose to live mentally in a world where I had already won. It's easy to get caught up in what you see: the bills, the lack, the delays, the unanswered prayers. But the secret is this: if you want the world to change, you must refuse to let the world decide how you feel. You must feel the way you would feel if everything you wanted was already yours. That is the essence of power. That is the path to transformation. I did not wake up every day thinking, how do I stretch this money? I woke up every day and stepped into a state of mind where I was already wealthy. I didn't ask, where will the money come from? I declared, it's already mine. I spoke, thought, moved, and rested as someone who had already reached the mountaintop. I didn't let the present moment fool me, because I knew circumstances are always lying to those who don't understand the truth. And the truth is, your reality begins with what you assume to be true. Assuming the end means you don't wait to see it before you believe it. You believe it and then you live as if it's already done. You're not faking it. You're not pretending. You're stepping into a new state of being, one where the desire has already been fulfilled. And when you do this, something shifts. Not just inside you, but around you. The people you meet, the doors that open, the chances that come, they begin to align with the version of you that you've accepted in consciousness. I did not live in hope. Hope waits, hope pleads, hope begs. I lived in knowing. I moved with the certainty of someone who didn't need to hustle or chase, because in my world the outcome had already occurred. I walked into rooms with nothing in my pocket but everything in my mind. I stood before opportunities that didn't exist yet, but I spoke to them as if they were already there. Because to me, they were. My assumption was not based on logic. It was based on identity. I became the man who had what he wanted. I lived in that mental space. I felt it as deeply as I could. And the world slowly, then suddenly caught up. When people asked how I stayed so calm, so focused, so confident while being broke, I smiled. Because I wasn't broke. I was rich in belief. I was wealthy in conviction. I had invested all of myself into the future I had already claimed. And I never withdrew that investment. That's the mistake most people make. They switch states too often. They waver. They get distracted by appearances. They let fear become their guide. But I stayed with the feeling. I stayed with the end. I nurtured it. I believed in it more than the evidence in front of me. And that is why I succeeded. That is why I multiplied those $7.00 into millions. Because I didn't wait for it to happen. I lived like it already had. I did not assume the struggle. I assumed the result. I didn't fixate on the process. I focused on the outcome. I saw myself as powerful, abundant, and free, and that image, that state, that feeling, it shaped the world around me until it was no longer just a vision, but a reality. Poverty is not the absence of money. It is the presence of a lie the mind believes and the body lives out, a lie that says, this is who you are, this is all you'll ever have. But I refused that lie. I refused to let the outer world speak louder than my inner knowing. When I held those $7.00, I didn't see poverty. I saw an invitation, a test, a question. Will you believe what you see, or will you believe what you know? The world told me I had nothing. It pointed to numbers, to circumstances, to statistics. But I knew none of that mattered, because I had already discovered the truth. What you experience is only the echo of your inner state. The outer world, no matter how solid it may seem, is a reflection, a shadow. It is not the cause, it is the result. And so I didn't fight the shadow. I changed the source of the light. I turned within. People ask how I made millions from $7.00. The answer is simple. I never accepted that $7.00 is the limit of my life. I understood that the true currency of this world is not money, but consciousness. And I was rich in that. I had wealth in vision. I had abundance in imagination. I had a vault full of belief. And that belief, that unseen power, began to write a new story. You must understand this. The mind, when left untamed, accepts anything the world throws at it. It bows to fear. It kneels before doubt. It becomes a slave to limitation. But when you awaken, when you realize that every moment is yours to shape, that the world outside cannot define the power within, you become unstoppable. That's what happened to me. I didn't deny the $7.00. I transcended it. I looked at it and smiled, knowing it had no authority over me unless I gave it some. The truth is, most people are not poor because they lack money. They are poor because they have accepted a poor image of themselves. They wear the identity of struggle. They rehearse lack in their thoughts. They believe in limitation more than they believe in possibility. But I chose differently. I chose to see myself as someone who already had it all. And from that state, everything changed. I didn't wait for the money to feel successful. I felt successful and the money came. I didn't ask for proof, I became the proof. I walked in faith, not the kind that begs, but the kind that knows. I knew the truth and I lived by it. That the outer world is plastic, malleable. It bends to the inner conviction of the one who refuses to settle for what is seen. Every great transformation starts here in the invisible, in that sacred space within you where you dare to dream a new dream, not because the world agrees, but because your soul insists. I let that inner reality speak louder than fear, louder than facts, louder than the voice of the past. I turned inward and found wealth, and that wealth began to rise like a tide, slow and certain, until it drowned every lie I had once believed. Poverty is a mindset, and once you see through it, you can never be trapped by it again. I passed the test not by collecting more, but by becoming more, by knowing that everything I desired already existed within me, waiting for me to accept it, to feel it, to live from it. That $7.00 wasn't the end, it was the beginning. It wasn't a sentence, it was a question. and I answered it with truth, with power, with vision. I didn't wait to become rich to feel wealthy. I didn't wait for a number in a bank account to validate who I was. I lived from the state of abundance long before the world had any evidence of it. I became the millionaire in consciousness before I ever made my first million. I walked, spoke, moved, and rested as if it were already mine, not as if it might happen, but as if it already had. This is the difference most never understand. They live toward their dreams, always reaching, always chasing. But I lived from mine as though I had already arrived. This is the law. Whatever you assume to be true, consistently and without contradiction, must harden into fact. And I assumed wealth. Not one day, not someday, but now, in this moment, in every moment. I did not act like someone who was on the way to riches. I acted like someone who already possessed them. I trained my mind to dwell in the end. I clothed myself in the feeling of fulfillment, and because I was faithful to that inner world, the outer world had no choice but to rearrange itself around my conviction. When you live from the state, you stop striving, you stop forcing, begging, manipulating, you stop exhausting yourself trying to make it happen. Instead, you rest in the knowing that it is already done. The doing flows naturally from the being. Action no longer comes from lack, but from alignment. Every step you take, every word you speak carries the vibration of completion. You're not trying to get there, you're simply expressing where you already are in consciousness. I would go about my day not as someone trying to become wealthy, but as someone whose wealth was established. When I made decisions, I made them from that higher identity. When I spoke to others, I spoke with the calm, certain tone of one who had nothing to prove. I didn't shrink in conversations. I didn't act desperate, and I certainly didn't let the world convince me to doubt what I knew in my spirit. Because I wasn't playing a part, I was the part. The state had claimed me and I had claimed it in return. Living from the state means refusing to argue with appearances. It means you no longer let your senses dictate your belief. Even when the bank account was nearly empty, even when people doubted me, I didn't return to the old mindset. I stayed where I belonged, anchored in the assumption of abundance. And that assumption carried me. It opened doors I didn't know existed. It attracted the right people, the right ideas, the right moments, all aligned with the state I chose to dwell in. The moment you begin to act as if your desire is already fulfilled, you awaken power. Not just emotional power, but spiritual authority. You step into alignment with your true nature, the one that is never in lack. This world is moved by faith, not blind hope, but embodied faith, the kind that walks like it's already done, the kind that doesn't waver, the kind that doesn't look for permission from the outside. I did not wait, I became. And the becoming was not gradual, it was immediate in consciousness, even if the manifestation took time. But because I was already there within, the journey didn't feel like waiting. It felt like watching a delayed reflection catch up to me. I didn't doubt the mirror just because it lagged. I knew what I was projecting, and I knew it had to come. So I invite you, stop living toward the life you want, start living from it. Don't act as if it's coming, act as if it's already here. Dress like it, walk like it, speak like it, think like it. That's how you shift timelines. That's how you collapse delay. That's how you become what you already are. Live from the state, not in hope, not in effort, in knowing. I didn't get here by wishing once. I didn't imagine it once and forget about it. I return to the image daily, sometimes hourly, not out of desperation, but out of devotion. Repetition is not for the world, it's for the mind. It's how the inner soil accepts the seed of a new reality. I wasn't trying to force anything. I was simply affirming what already existed in me. Over and over again, I returned to that image of myself, powerful, wealthy, secure, free. And with every repetition, it grew more real, first in my mind, then in my world. This is what most people miss. They assume that one burst of inspiration is enough to change their lives. But a single thought, no matter how beautiful, is like a spark. If it's not fed with attention, it dies out. So I fed it. I gave it life by returning to it. I saw myself sitting in rooms I hadn't entered yet. I saw bank balances that had yet to exist. I walked through my days with a feeling of completion. It wasn't about hoping, it was about knowing and reminding myself of that knowing again and again. Repetition is not about control, it's about alignment. I wasn't trying to bend the world to my will, I was bending my own awareness to match the truth I had chosen. When doubt whispered, I returned to the image. When fear spoke, I went back to the state. When nothing in the outside seemed to change, I went deeper within. I didn't panic. I didn't chase. I embodied. That's the difference between those who manifest and those who merely wish. They don't let the outer world shake the inner conviction. I didn't repeat affirmations like a robot. I felt the truth behind them. I tasted the reality I was imagining. I made the vision feel like memory, as if it had already happened. The more I returned to it, the more natural it became. It stopped feeling like a dream and started feeling like home. The mind doesn't reject what feels familiar, so I made success familiar. I made wealth comfortable. I made abundance normal. And once it became normal in my consciousness, it had to show up in my life. People saw the millions, but they didn't see the mental rehearsal. They didn't see the quiet moments where I turned away from the noise of the world and returned to myself. They didn't see me close my eyes and feel the weight of a future that had already happened in my mind. And yet, that's where the real work was done. Not in the hustle, not in the grind, but in the consistent returning to a truth greater than circumstance. The world moves according to pattern. Repetition carves that pattern deep into the fabric of your reality. It's how belief becomes automatic. It's how the old story loses power. You can't just touch the new image once and expect transformation. You have to live with it, walk with it, fall asleep with it, wake up with it, until it becomes the only story your mind accepts. That's how the world catches up, not by force, but by resonance. I didn't chase, I didn't beg, I became. And I became by repetition, quiet, steady, unshakable repetition. I wasn't looking for signs. I was embodying the signal. I wasn't hoping to attract wealth. I was tuning into the frequency where wealth already existed, and once I locked into it and stayed locked in, the world had no choice. It had to reflect what I consistently assumed to be true. That's the secret. Repetition creates reality, not through striving, but through saturation. The image you hold most often becomes the life you live, so choose wisely, then return to it, again and again, until there is no difference between who you are and who you imagine. No one saw it but me, no one believed it but me, and still I walked forward as if the outcome were already secured. My $800 million, 0 cents, was not the fruit of hustle or grind, nor was it the gift of coincidence or luck. It was born from something far more subtle and infinitely more powerful. Faith in the invisible. A quiet, persistent inner knowing. I felt it long before the world gave me permission to. I trusted it when there was nothing yet to hold in my hands. Because faith does not look for evidence. Faith creates it. Most people think power lies in action, in doing more, pushing harder, staying busy. But the only true power is inner conviction, unshaken belief in what cannot yet be seen. I didn't need proof to believe. I didn't wait for confirmation to trust. I knew what was mine before it came. I lived in the certainty that my inner reality was the only reality that mattered. And because I remained faithful to that unseen world, the seen world eventually rearranged itself around it. Not overnight, But inevitably, when I had only $7, what I really had was vision. I had the wealth already held in consciousness. I saw myself walking into buildings I didn't yet own. I saw deals closing. I saw my face on magazines, not because I was fantasizing, but because I had already moved into that version of myself in mind. That was the work. To see what others couldn't and keep seeing it. Even when life showed the opposite, especially then. Faith doesn't make a lot of noise. It doesn't beg. It doesn't argue. And it doesn't explain itself. It's still, but strong. It doesn't care what's in your bank account or what your friends say or how your day looks. It speaks from within and says, this is already done. And if you dare to believe it, truly believe it, the world begins to change, not because of your effort, but because of your alignment. I didn't have all the answers. I didn't know how it would unfold. That's not faith's job. Faith doesn't deal in details. It deals in assumption. It assumes the end and walks in it. I didn't ask the world to prove anything to me. I became the proof. I moved like a man who already had it, not because I was pretending, but because I had touched a deeper truth within myself. And that truth carried me. That's what faith does. It carries you where reason can't. There were days the world laughed, days nothing added up, days when quitting would have made more sense than continuing. But faith doesn't need things to make sense, it just needs to be felt. So I felt it, I fed it, I protected it. While others clung to facts, I clung to vision, and in the silence of those choices, my fortune began to form. Not with noise, not with spectacle, but with the slow, sacred unfolding that faith always delivers. The money came, the opportunities came, the reputation came, but those were not the miracle. The miracle happened long before, when I decided to believe in something no one else could see. That's the moment everything changed. That's when the world began to bend, not to my ego, but to my faith. So if you're waiting for the outside to change, stop. Go inward. Find the vision, plant it. Then water it daily with your attention, your gratitude, your inner certainty. That's all you need. Because faith in the invisible is not passive, it's the most active force there is. It builds the unseen bridge between where you are and where you're meant to be. And if you can trust that bridge without seeing it, you'll walk right into the life that's already yours. It was never really about the $7. It was never about the numbers, the odds, or the visible circumstances. It was always about who I became in consciousness. I didn't wait for wealth to believe I was wealthy. I believed first and the world followed. I lived from the end. I rejected the lie of limitation. I repeated the vision until it became real. And I held unshakable faith in what no one else could see. That is how $7.00 turned into $800 million 0 cents. Not by force, but by alignment. Everything you desire is already within you, not in some distant future, but here, now, waiting for your recognition. You don't need to beg, chase, or prove. You need only to assume, to feel, and to know. Your imagination is the birthplace of all you will ever have. Guard it, honor it, and walk boldly in the direction of what your soul already claims as true. Thank you for walking this journey with me, where the unseen becomes seen and the impossible becomes inevitable.